All right, let's dive right in. Today we're going to unpack a really fascinating and kind of forgotten idea from the 20th century. It's a movement with a seriously troubled past, but it might just hold a surprising key for getting through the chaos we're all living in right now. So let me just start with this question. What if an idea so messy, so problematic, that it had to be completely renamed and rebranded? What if that's exactly what we need to find our footing today? I know, it sounds pretty unlikely, but stick with me, because the story here is incredible. The movement was called Morel rearmament. Yeah, I know, it's a big, kind of intense-sounding name. The whole idea was to change the world by changing people, one by one. But to really get why we're even talking about it now, we have to look at where it came from. And that brings us to our first section, A Forgotten Ideas Return. We're about to see how its very complicated history isn't just some footnote, it's actually what makes it so relevant to the questions we're facing today. So its history is, well, it's messy. It started out in the 1930s as something called the Oxford Group. But, and this is a huge but, its founder had some deeply disturbing sympathies for Nazism, which left a permanent stain. After the war, they tried to escape that legacy, rebranding first as Morel rearmament and then later as Initiatives of Change, shifting their focus to global reconciliation. You know, this whole journey from a really dark past towards an attempt at healing, it kind of mirrors a challenge we all have. Can we actually learn from our biggest failures to build something better? In that question, can we learn from old ideas, leads us straight to our second point, our failing Enlightenment mindset. Because a huge part of our problem today is that the mental operating system we've all been running on is seriously out of date. For centuries, the Enlightenment gave us this amazing framework. It was all about finding certainty, predicting outcomes, and this core belief that we could kind of engineer the world like a perfect machine. But just look around. Our world today, with its explosive, accelerating complexity, driven by AI and global networks, it just doesn't work that way anymore. We're basically trying to use a map for a world that doesn't exist. And this mismatch isn't just some abstract idea. It has real-world consequences that I bet feel pretty familiar. It's what's behind so much of the fear and anxiety in the air. It's what's fueling the crazy polarization we see everywhere. And it's what causes that dangerous retreat into overly simple black and white truths, because grappling with the messy reality is just too overwhelming. Meanwhile, our ethics and our laws just can't keep up with the tech. This quote from our source material just nails it, doesn't it? We are stuck trying to manage complexity with tools designed for a simpler, more deterministic machine. We are fundamentally mismatched. It really is like trying to navigate a superhighway using a horse and buggy. So what happens when our old ways of thinking start to crumble? Well, a vacuum opens up. And that takes us to Section 3, Power Without a Compass. We've got to ask, who or what is rushing in to fill that void? The very nature of power has changed. You can think of it like a game. The board might still look familiar, but the rules and the actual pieces we're playing with, the marbles, are completely different now. And this slide just lays out the shift so clearly. Traditional power was tangible stuff. You could see the armies, count the gold, draw the borders on a map, and it was mostly held by governments. But this new power, it's cognitive, it's informal, it's wielded by tech giants and data brokers, through algorithms that literally shape what we think and feel and buy. It's not power over land anymore, it's power over our minds. And here's the absolute heart of the problem. This new immense power is often being used without any kind of ethical governor. I mean, when the only goal is profit or just raw influence, algorithms get designed to exploit our psychology. They deepen our divisions, they capitalize on that very moral vacuum we were just talking about. So if that's the diagnosis, what's the cure? Well, that brings us to Section 4, the call for moral courage. And the antidote isn't some grand political theory. It's actually something much more personal and way more powerful. The original motto of the Enlightenment was sapere aude, dared to think. It was a revolutionary call for intellectual independence. But for where we are today, we need an update. It's no longer enough just to think for yourself. We need moral courage. So what is that? It's the fortitude, the strength to actually act on your principles, to follow the moral choices of your own intellect, especially when it's hard, especially when it goes against the grain or makes you unpopular with your own tribe. And this is not an abstract thing. It's about choosing nuance when everyone around you is screaming for a simple slogan. It's about genuinely trying to understand where the other is coming from, not just so you can win an argument.
It's about demanding that we and our leaders wrestle with complicated, messy truths instead of just retreating into comforting lies.
I know all of this can sound pretty daunting, but our final section offers a much more hopeful way to look at all this. It's called From Winter into Spring. It's all about seeing this turbulent moment not as an end, but as a difficult and totally necessary transition. A really crucial idea to hold on to is that history isn't some straight line of endless progress. It moves in cycles, kind of like seasons. You get these periods of decay, these winters, that feel chaotic and scary for sure, but they are always followed by periods of renewal. We are definitely in a winter right now. The old ways are breaking down. But this decay actually creates a massive opportunity. We get a choice. We can learn from it, consciously let go of what's failing, and do the hard work of defining the values for the next era. And that's how we get to spring. A new moral era doesn't just appear. It emerges from the seeds we plant right now in the middle of all this winter. And this brings us full circle. The really critical lesson from the failure of that original moral rearmament movement is that a rigid, top-down ideology can't solve our problems. It's just too easily corrupted or proven wrong. The true moral rearmament we need now is the exact opposite. It's a bottom-up movement, built not on some single doctrine, but on the sum of countless individual acts of courage and conscience. But that new season, that spring, it's not inevitable. It's not guaranteed at all. It depends completely on the choices that we make right now. Which leaves us all with one final critical question. How will you plant its seeds?